Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this latest edition of Tales from Outer Space, taken from the subreddit HFY. This story is called It Is Trapped with Humans, written by Hansen III.
A new message from the human diplomat has arrived for you, sir.
Arden looked up from his datapad at his aide leaning in through the doorway, which so rudely interrupted his morning ritual of reading the news. "Can you give me a rundown? I'll read it personally later," he said dismissively with a hand wave, shaking his feathered head in agitation. He turned his attention back to his datapad.
"I can't, sir. The message is confidential and specifically came with an order that no other person other than you should view the contents within it."
His counterpart, Marek, usually sent messages over the FTL diplomatic lines when he wanted to have a chat about life or philosophy. If it was something that had the least in passing to do with the galactic politics, he would have showed up in person. He always said that it was more efficient. This was different. He could feel it. "Stranger. Give it to me, then." The aide entered the room and handed the datapad over with a bow, and quickly exited, closing the door behind him. Arden's feathers stood up as he turned on the datapad and read the first sentence. "Hello, friend. I would talk about this in person to you, but surrounding circumstances just don't allow it. I'll get to why." Were they embroiled in another war? Arden shuddered after thinking about the last time the government declared war on humans. He quickly continued reading. "One standard week ago, a survey drone found a natural wormhole and tried to stabilize and probe it to see if it was transversible as per standard procedure. Something sure wasn't standard about that wormhole, though, as the last transmission we got from it were heat readings that our eggheads couldn't make sense of, and shortly after, we lost contact. The Council ordered the brass to send a flotilla of nearby warships to the last known position of the drone, in case it was pirates or some other adversary that killed the drone. You will never guess what they found as soon as they entered the system. The wormhole and the drone were in. An enormous, what I can only describe as an eldritch sort of worm eating the fecking star." Arden wasn't sure if he hadn't misread something and had to read the last few sentences a couple of times. A headache developed as he tried to wrap his mind around what his friend had written. Was this some kind of joke, or maybe it was a code for something? It seemed to notice our flotilla, and as soon as it did, somehow, without a clear mode of propulsion, jumped out of the system, and the flotilla reported something shaking as it did. Luckily, there was no serious damage, other than some bruised crew members. Now, I know what this all sounds like, but I swear on all that is holy that I am telling the truth here, and no, I am not speaking in code. Marek knew him too well at this point. A civilian mining station soon reported something enormous entering the system, again only causing minor damage to the station itself. The moon the station orbited, however, reportedly cracked and broke apart into pieces, along with the rest of the planets in that system. Whatever it is, it has so much mass that it creates a gravitational field stronger than the stars it eats, because according to the miners, the material of that star just fell towards the maw on its own. A byproduct of that kind of mass is waves of space-time every time it jumps, which shakes more massive things than ships and stations apart. To simplify, the thing deforms space so much when it enters a system out of nothing that space ripples like water. After only one standard hour, it was done and moved on to the next star. Arden dropped the datapad in shock on the floor, slightly cracking the screen. Realizing as he did, he quickly picked it up and saw, to his relief, that it still worked. Building up his courage, he continued reading. "Now we know that it's most probably not doing this on purpose, but we can't have this thing around and risk entering a populated system. A council of scientists, politicians, military personnel, and the President Penrose himself convened today and came up with the following plan. It might sound a bit unusual to you, But this is an unusual problem. We will trap it and try to kill it before it possibly reproduces, and we have to deal with two of them. Number one, the fact that it's eating stars means that it needs energy to survive, or at least move from system to system, like any other living creature. We will create a cage for it in the shape of a sphere. The sphere will have a diameter of 580 light years, with its center as the system the thing was first found in. Annihilation-class antimatter warheads will be mounted on FTL-capable missiles, and will be used to destroy every star within 25 light years outside the sphere. It cannot be allowed to escape into the wider galaxy, especially if it might be capable of reproducing. 25 light years is estimated distance of empty space needed to ensure that it won't be able to escape. The average distance between stars is about 5 light years, and a being that evolved to eat stars will most likely be adapted to only travel maybe slightly farther than that. Unfortunately, most of human space, including Sol, will be within that sphere. Number 2. Form a special task force to keep tabs on the thing and try to kill it with regular armaments. Number 3. If that doesn't work, make more of these spheres, but with smaller diameter each time, until we can trap it in a pocket 15 light years or less across. Number 4. We spike all the stars within the pocket with antimatter bombs. This'll hopefully kill it when it consumes one. That is, if it's even made of regular matter. Number 5. If it doesn't, we'll just keep it trapped in that pocket, where it'll hopefully starve. It should be dealt with in a year or 2. 6. For good measure, a couple antimatter bombs will be dropped through the wormhole it came from, and a constant contingent of ships will be placed around it as guards. Now, to the reason I contacted you. Tell your citizens to avoid human space for the foreseeable future until we get the situation under control, and give out a general ban for the next few months for the same reason as to why I can't tell you this in person. The antimatter bombs apparently do not use up all the antimatter at once. A bit of it remains after detonation and pollutes the space around it with small particles of itself for a few months. We wouldn't want a random tanker to catch one of the particles in FTL on its way to Alpha Centauri. It wouldn't end pretty. I can't wait to see you in person in a couple months, so that we can talk about this face to face, over a cup of tea. You know I prefer that. How are the kids? They've surely grown a lot since the last time. Until we meet, your friend, Nicola Merrick. P.S. Also, please petition your higher-ups to get us some antimatter weapons. We would appreciate any kind. You can imagine that we will run low on them soon after the implementation of the first step of this plan. Shaking, Harton put down the datapad on the table. He sat back in his chair after he had subconsciously stood up midway through the letter. Aid! Aid, set up a meeting with Her Majesty Yornad for me, please. I need to urgently speak to her. It concerns antimatter bombs and, humans. End of story.
I'd quickly like to thank the T5 channel members and patrons. Caspar Arnholtz, Cam Maxwell, Lord Azrakal, Dragzoon WRE, Holly Sister, Ambrose Cattell, and Quantum Wednesday. Thank you very much.